welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com Broiler Chicken Show. Trade your trading plans, don't take too much risk on any one trade, and just let yourself get rich. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. No, this isn't the Daily Brief. This is the Broiler Chickens. I was even looking at the little moniker that I put together a million years ago. The Broiler Chicken Show. Why Broiler Chickens? Why not? Seems like a fun name for a show. Completely unrelated to anything that we do, but what the hell. Anyway, welcome back to the Frivolity. Let's have some fun here today. I suppose there's not a hell of a lot new to go over here, so there's nothing going to be earth-shattering. And unfortunately, we are coming into the end of this cycle, so I hope you're all getting prepared. And of course, probably if these markets start going parabolic, we should start hearing the public coming into the market. And that should be sort of our tell that we're getting awfully close. So get ready, folks. Next 6 months should be one hell of a wild ride. We've been sort of planning for this, getting ready for it, not really knowing how the fundamentals were going to play out to justify this move up. But it's remarkable if you just leave the humans to their own devices. We always say you can't write better fiction than reality. You can't script this any better. And if we sat down a year or two ago and said, okay, so what is the top of the market going to look like? What's going to drive it? If somebody had said, well, Donald Trump and his manipulation of the cryptocurrency markets are actually what's going to drive all this, you'd say you're crazy. And yet I think that's exactly the environment that we're in right now, which does to me sadly actually speak to this particular cycle peak. I don't think it's going to have a hell of a lot to do with fundamental value. It's going to have everything to do with momentum be very, very careful with sort of like value when it comes to actually what you are investing in. I'm even, ironically enough, hearing a lot of people sort of like in international arenas and stuff saying that they can't invest in the U.S. market now because the U.S. prices have just gotten a little bit out of control. Stock market, of course, booming higher here to new highs. And valuations are extremely rich. And to that end, I'm actually starting to hear a lot of chatter from sort of like people that I would respect in the industry barking about how a perfect storm of trouble is brewing here, folks. So unfortunately, we do know based on sort of Great Reset and all that kind of chatter, what sort of the background story of all this is. And when we go back and look at the previous Great Reset, 1940s, we see some pretty awful inflation data. And really, I think the quote unquote inflation is this great resetting. And I've made the argument for a very long period of time that really inflation is nothing more than the banker's tax. And how do you justify over-the-top socialist programs by governments that are completely unfundable? You can't get nothing from nothing. It doesn't exist. So the way that our society is conned into thinking that they do get something for nothing is governments go and run horrific deficits and horrific debts. And then once every 80 years or so, whatever the hegemony currency is de jour, their borrowing power is literally exhausted. Debt to GDP ratios, if you can think of those kind of numbers. And the only way out, of course, is to hyperinflate the economy, print an absolutely ridiculous amount of money, quote unquote, monetize the debt. So you hear that expression all the time now. And Joe Sixpack, of course, takes it on the chin. Yeah, they think that they're getting, social programs and social safety nets and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, it's just a massive tax. That's all these social programs and all this debt and stuff is just basically a transfer of wealth. And unfortunately, we're living in the absolute worst part of this entire cycle. And in my humble opinion, the next 4 or 5 years are going to be very, very difficult on all of us. So be prepared. And unfortunately, when I say something like that, it's like, well, why the hell would I bother listening to you, Brian? You're just all doom and gloom. The one thing that I can absolutely assure you is I speak the truth. It's my truth. It's what I believe. I'd be more than happy to stand in a court of law. 40 plus years trading, investing, educating, hell, now 10, 15 years of actually teaching people. You want to hear something really cool? I was so impressed with this. Somebody actually posted a comment today, but it's probably gone. I couldn't believe this. It's so fucking awesome. Thanks, Brian. XTRI here from 2019. Your timeless market lessons have not been wasted. Awesome. Love to hear that. I have, and I love this line. I have gotten filthy, can't say that word, starts with an F, rich from the markets based on your teachings, as well as my own, as well as my own application, adding a lot of my own unique framework and ironclad rules with your principles as my foundation. I mean, God, that's exactly why I do all of this, right? Is the whole point of this is to try and make a positive difference in all of your lives. I make no money out of doing these free videos. I'm not going to censor myself, which means that probably the broader world audience probably never hears from me because I am censored. So lucky on all of you who have been able to take advantage of this resource. And really, sadly, I just all I do is I just speak what I see in the market. And I think the best testament of this was like 4 or 5 years ago. I actually would stand up at my window, and people even joke about this in the chat rooms and stuff that I'm involved in. They even joke like I literally into 2020, 21 there, I literally would stand up and I would yell out my window, "You idiots, you are all buying into a bubble here, this Canadian real estate market. You are absolute fools." And here's the other side of it. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. You go on YouTube, and I was even joking before I started with Chris here. I don't know whether it'll show on this TRI channel, and I don't want to hop over to my own personal channel, but it might not show here. But if I like pull up all the social media influencers about the Canadian real estate market now, they are absolutely dying a million deaths. And the half of my job here and what I see in my brain is I just simply want you all to avoid these kind of nightmare scenarios that these silly humans get themselves into, chasing bubbles and chasing the top of the market. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's so cliche, and yet when you are at the top and you look around, it's impossible to actually talk any sense into the public. It's absolutely remarkable. So anyway, here we are again. I think actually I did I can't. Yeah, it's fun when I go on my personal YouTube channel and I look. I mean, because I do like watching these. Maybe actually I can do the Canadian real estate. Let's just see what it has. It might be funny watching all these. Yeah, I mean, look at this now. Look at this. Even the communist government agencies are even talking about that. They just say it's a slump. That's all. Then you got these social media guys. This guy's been barking about how the Canadian market is a top and crashing, and bailouts need to come, and it's too late. It's collapsing. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. 550,000 gone, right? Mortgage mania. You won't believe what's happening. You've been lied to. House prices are going to collapse. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on now. So, ironically enough, it's actually that image that I'm actually trying to help all of you avoid. And that's why I do this, is just trying to avoid the pitfalls. And ironically enough, you remember that, Constantine? But not a single fucking person would listen to me I would look out my window and I go, who the hell do you expect to actually be moving into all of these, like, and every single apartment, they're on sale for, like, 500 square foot cupboard. There's one guy who calls them dog crate condos, and they're completely unsellable. But through the mania, of course, the silly, public acting like idiots like they always do, they went in piling in, and just now they're all going to get absolutely destroyed. So way to go, public. You did it again. Anyway. And of course, the irony of it all is, if you actually follow me and follow my teaching, I told you in 2017, 2018, and you all should understand this from the cycles that I bark about consistently, that really that world that we lived in from 2000 to 2018, that world is over. And that was all about China coming on and being, oh, we're gonna take over the world. China number one. Fuck you. What a joke all that's turned out to be. Actually, I even saw an article today that Winnie the Pooh is actually in, like, exile. He's actually been run out of the country, and his wife had to smuggle him out. I think Winnie the Pooh actually had to dress up like a girl to get over the Chinese border. And I think they smuggled him over the border in, like, a baby frame or something like that. I mean, you can't write this shit any better. It's absolutely perfect. You can't write this any better. I tell you. Anyway, so one thing I will say about myself, and just be forewarned, is usually I'm right, but usually I'm early. So that'll keep me out of a lot of trouble. But at the same time, too, I'm not going to suggest that you use me as oh, hey, this guy said buy this and you'll get rich tomorrow. That's not how I operate. I do like the macro picture, but keep in mind, macro pictures move very, very slowly. And then all of a sudden, somebody flicks a switch and then all hell breaks loose. And unfortunately, I think that we're heading into one of those environments right now. Actually, I was very proud. I think that's actually a good word to use. Proud of the work that students of mine have done, taking concepts that I sort of introduced them to you and then run with them. And of course, this was one of the pieces of work that a student of mine from years ago did. And I'm very, very proud of the hard work. And he's an excellent analyst now. I think he's fully learned how to understand the markets. And of course, I did a free broadcast on July 4th there as well on the YouTube feed. So, maybe watch that. But we talked lots about the fact that we are coming into a cycle pivot here based on things like the Benner cycle here in 2026. And unfortunately, it's not a major cycle peak. So, this isn't the, just, buy $500 worth of cryptocurrencies and you'll make $1 million kind of environment. We're not in that kind of environment right now. There are a number of reasons that I think it makes sense why we're not in that type of environment. If you'd like me to go into them, I can. But the long and short of it here is based on Mr. Benner's time-tested, very simple principles. We're in like a minor cycle peak. But you remember 2007, 2008 with the US housing crisis and the calamity there. Usually the downturns following these minor cycle peaks, they can be really dramatic. I've made the argument, and I still believe this fully, that whatever the calamity is that causes this pivot in the market, I don't actually think it has anything to do with the United States of America, which is so ironic because basically that's a 100% where everybody's attention is focused. I might actually argue, I think there's a very real possibility that this whole Chinese stupidity and then basically reverting back to military totalitarian dictatorship, which they've been all along. Why people like Chakpak and all those idiots convinced themselves that they were somehow different and that you could actually trust them with your capital. That was just dumb. And actually, in the entire time that I've been running this education program and part of TRI, I've constantly warned all of you, do not invest your money in China. Do not invest your money in Russia. And sadly, I actually see a lot of these commodity countries heading down the same direction, the same path as those really ugly, nasty communist totalitarian dictatorships. Is Russia communist? Who knows? What the fuck does communism even mean these days? Um, but I'm seeing more and more austerity. That's not the right word. Authoritarianism. What's that called? It starts with an A. It's not austerity. I can guarantee you that. But for example, here in China, Chindia, I don't know what the fuck you call this country nowadays. Um, the leader here is just basically appointed himself dictator, basically dissolved the government, the political parliament, whatever the hell you want to call it. And he's just running the country by decree right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if we actually see more and more of that over the coming quarters, years. And unfortunately, it hits an apex right here in 2032. So, oh boy, this is going to be a really, really tough 5 years ahead of us. And it's ironic. I mean, this is the irony of life is back over here when my son was first born. And of course, he was diagnosed ASD. We used to have a ton of especially when he was like 2 years old. That's when the government threw just ridiculous money at you to try and fix the problem, but they knew bloody well that it would never be fixed. And it was just basically, socialism for the medical class. They all got huge monies poured into them, and really it didn't do anything for Liam in the end. But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. But it was interesting. I read a horoscope back here in 2003, 2004, and it said that I was entering in a period of 30 years of financial prosperity. And unfortunately, once I was through that window, then I have 30 years of shit. So I have a funny feeling by the time we hit the end of this 32 cycle, oh boy, capitalism itself might be dead. Who fucking knows? But this is going to be a really, really difficult window ahead of us. So, be forewarned. Remember, Brian's usually right. So this is going to be ugly, but Brian's usually early. I'm starting to bark about this the middle of 2025. My hunch is that actually the inertia that paints this 2026 top, the inertia of the market here, I would not be surprised if it does spill into early 2026, because you can see all of the pieces are being put in place to cause almost like a blow off euphoric top in the market here this fall. Having said that, based on little things like January barometer and stuff like that, the traders back at the beginning of the year sort of kind of conjecturing what this fall was going to look like. I think that they are expecting we're in for one hell of a wild ride once we get into probably something like October. If we're lucky, we can sneak our way through September, have a pretty uppy market. But something happens the middle of October where both the crypto cycle, it hits its 4-year apex. And unfortunately, it does look like the stock market might run into a bit of trouble. So that's sort of your backdrop for what this next 6-12 months are going to look like. As I said in a tweet recently, And if you want a whole bunch of corroborating evidence, I included two gentlemen who I think very highly of in the marketplace. Mr. Dowd, I think, is a very, very intelligent individual. And of course, everybody knows Gunlock, and a bit of a character. I don't know whether I'm as much of a pessimist as Mr. Gunlock, but if you don't listen to the Beamish, then maybe listen to these smarty pantses guys. There is trouble brewing. There is no doubt about it. And so my sort of thinking here is big up. Enjoy the frivolity here as sort of this new legislation is passed. And, we'll figure out who the winners and the losers are. As Chris had pointed out in the newsletter here this week, there's a whole bunch of crypto legislation that's basically now law. It's fascinating how the tables have turned basically 180 degrees. And I wouldn't even be surprised if like into like September or October, we have some sort of like uh Do Kwon is officially now a hero of society versus being the biggest villain ever in existence or whatever. I wouldn't even be surprised into the fall here. They even let that SBF guy out of jail here through the fall here. So the good, and this is what I tried to do on Friday, was I sort of said, well, here's the bad, but there's also a little bit of good in it. So the good is that at least there is some sort of framework now to have a legal basis where, if you're just out there being a crypto shill, half of the time you're like dodging, looking over your shoulders if some sort of, Biden kind of SEC. What was that guy's name? The bald guy who was running the SEC? Gensler, right? I think that's what his name was. I think he's gone back, scurried back into his hole back in MIT. But anyway, at least now there's a framework. Now, this could go both ways because now there is a framework. You could probably actually find serious criminal activities, investigations, that kind of stuff, because now they actually have a law framework to work with to charge you against. So probably a little too early to tell who are the greatest winners and losers out of all of this. But I do think that you are, the fanboys that were pumped up there last spring, I guess winter. They're probably going to have another leg higher here. The question, I guess, the $64,000 question here is, what kind of like pump do we actually get out of shit coins here? And that space, given that the how do I say this? I've been in the crypto space now for well over a decade. I can absolutely unequivocally tell you from my own personal experience that the tone of this space has changed dramatically. Where at the beginning it was almost like a fraternity type environment. You had to be relatively tech savvy to understand half of what was going on and how you actually navigated a lot of crypto. But I don't think that that's the type of environment that we're in now. And if anything, people are not being encouraged to go the DeFi route. If anything, what I'm hearing is people are being, especially the public, are being funneled into very regulatory sort of body organizations. I thought it was interesting on the TRI site. One of our longtime site members was posting notifications from places like Coinbase and stuff with regard to taxes and all that. So you can clearly see that, as we have said repeatedly, at least I've said repeatedly, the tone of this market is very, very different than previous crypto markets. It's not the same creature whatsoever. I've also made the argument that when I first came into this space, um, half of the reason why I came into the crypto space was because, based on my teachings, I believe that we were in a hard asset preference environment. And there needed to be some sort of like modern day equivalent to gold, for lack of a better term. And that sort of, physical, if I drop it on my foot, it hurts kind of investing to speak to this new 21st century internet based, computer based society. Something like just going and buying a brick of gold. It's a little bit sort of like 19th century, 20th century kind of idea. So, what was that alternative going to be? And here comes Bitcoin. And interesting enough, when I first got into the space, most of the names were proof of work. And proof of work, in my eyes, basically validates the existence of these cryptocurrencies and actually gives them some sort of intrinsic value. The validation of the network itself is extremely valuable, that immutable third party validated ledger that some government can't come along and corrupt. So that was my original. Hey, Jim and Liz, good to see you. I was thinking about you over the weekend. That was sort of my original wanting to get involved in the crypto space. I think you could make a very real argument that if anything, our stupid society, and keep in mind that a lot of it, of course, is definitely being manipulated by the banksters. They really propagated this whole idea that, well, proof of work is unenvironmentally friendly, so you are an evil whatever if you support proof of work. So everybody quickly moved, oh well, no, we want to be politically correct. But what they don't realize is that they were, in essence, by moving away from proof of work, they were basically devaluizing, if there is such a term, the value of these investing assets. I don't think that there is a hell of a lot of value in crypto anymore. I really don't. And frankly speaking, I remember in years gone by, Vitalik would specifically get angry. I remember one year in particular, he got very angry that the rise in Ethereum's price actually made his supercomputer, this network that he's built with the Ethereum network, and smart contracts, it actually made his network more expensive to use. And so this was completely counterproductive. And it is interesting that through this entire crypto cycle, you haven't really heard anything from Vitalik. The only thing that I've seen of him was CZ gave him $15 million to work on some sort of project that he's working on in the biotech industry. So completely not Ethereum or any of that kind of conversation anymore. The space has completely and utterly changed. Yeah, it sucks. It is just the way that it is. Yeah, and I might argue, yeah, Kevin, I don't think that was a wise move. Having said that, why did I really not? I would love to interview him one day. But why did Mr. Vitalik actually build Ethereum? Did he build it? Oh, I'm going to get rich. This thing's going to go to the moon. It's a guaranteed rise only market. I don't think that actually that's why he did it. I think that's probably one of the last things on his mind. It was just a convenient side effect that, yeah, he went in there and built a network using cryptocurrencies, and basically sort of broke ground in the space, and he became stinking rich as a result of it. Way to go. Build a better mousetrap, world will beat a path to your door. But at the same time, too, does that actually imply that Ethereum is a good investment at current levels? I don't mean to be rude, but I don't think so. Sucks, but it is what it is. And I've been sitting here for quite some time just waiting for somebody to give me some sort of fundamental framework to value these cryptocurrencies, and nobody has come along. I do know that there are people that do like on-chain analysis and they study wallets and money flows and all that, but I don't mean to be rude, but that has absolutely nothing to do with value. So unfortunately, this is going to be one of those videos where, Jesus, the Beamish is just going on ranting about, this has got trouble written all over it, blah, 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 blah. But he doesn't really give us any trade ideas to get rich. So as a result, 36 views. Well, at least I'm speaking my piece. And at the end of the day, I can sleep well at night. And as you can see, still got a half decent head of hair. I'm now officially over the hill. I have to wear glasses now. So not so much gray. It's funny when I go to my barber was like, wow, you have like no gray. Well, half of what I try and do in my life is try and de-stress. I actually think stress is the number one killer for human beings. So if you can try and remove stress, and then also, I do like to smoke pot, and I do think pot actually de-stresses you. If you ever had a really, really stressful day and people really angering you, have a couple puffs, and you'd be surprised how quickly your cares just evaporate. And it's perfectly legal, so I don't have to say anything, or, ooh, I dodged the law, so I haven't broken any laws saying that. So there you go. Anyway, the silly world we live in. So be forewarned. That's all I can say. Just, what's funny though, Kevin, is when I went over to Amsterdam, and keep in mind, I come from like the pot capital of the world. But when I went over to Amsterdam, and actually, if you go to Germany, oh my God, they hate pot there. Who knows if it's legal there now or not? But when I went over to Amsterdam, I was surprised. None of the locals smoke. None. They are. And when I went to the famous what the hell is that? There's a little shop there in Amsterdam. I can see the actual sign, right, man, but I can't remember the name of the store. Anyway, it's like world famous. It has a blue sign on it. And there were no locals at all. And all the locals are like, you smoke pot? Ooh, you're evil. So go figure. Bulldog, that's right. Thank you. All right. Good remembering. All right. So I wanted to start off with a broadcast with just a simple, let's just be damn careful. We understand the context, the backdrop of what you are getting involved in right now, folks. And the irony of it all is that the people who are actually watching this video right now, I've seen all of you around for probably, geez, some of you like the past 5-10 years. There's the Alex. And of course, there's my buddies down in Sacramento. DMAC, I've seen you around forever. Kevin, I think I've seen you around a bit. I don't know whether you're one Kevin or another Kevin. So I'm sure all of you probably, oh yeah, Mr. Loris Bello, 6 years. Cotter, hey, Mr. Cotter, 8 years. Yeah, so I mean, you guys, hey, Zonks, hey, that's cool. I haven't seen you in a bit. So a lot of you people you all know the story. Norre, oh, I love you, my German bodybuilder. If I was a gay man, I would probably have a crush on Norre. Good. So anyway, oh, you're from Belgium, eh? You should reach out to Sjord. Sjord's over there in Breda, and he actually goes down. In fact, I think he's in France right now. I really hope you have a chance to meet Sjord. Sjord's one of the nicest people you will ever meet in your life. Absolute sweetheart. And he's just right around the corner from you. So DMAX since 2015. Wow. Dude, you've been around a while. Holy moly. Oh, good. All right, cool. So well, that's good to hear. So actually, I'm seeing a lot of good stuff out of chat here today. That's making me happy. Anyway, all right. So let's get on with what the hell I'm supposed to be talking about here today. I just I think almost every single video that I do, I have to preface every single video with, you must understand we're coming to the end of this cycle, not the beginning. All right, well, that's cool. What can we do, Brian, to protect ourselves the upcoming bad quote unquote years? That's a really good question, you know. Um, what can one do? See, what I'm fearful of here is I actually heard one gentleman say it very well recently, is just like 19 um, and 20 and the whole sickness nonsense. I think first they have to do a deflationary push, i.e., stock market's crashing. Oh, it's the end of the world. You're all being sucked. You know, I actually listened to a doctor. I put it up on a different social media feed that I'm starting up here just recently. And if you want my personal social media feed aside, away from Alan and all that nonsense, just DM me and I'll be more than happy to give you the address. But I'm not going to publicly tout any of that stuff. It's just my own private social media. But since you people here are all, I know all of you. If you want, just PM me, and I'll be happy to send you the link to that. It's a private social media channel that I'm working on. But I heard the other day that it turns out that the easiest cure for that COVID stuff was corticosteroids. And yet, all of the doctors were specifically told by the higher ups not to give steroids to COVID patients. And there's one doctor that I watched a very lengthy interview with. He like literally almost broke down in tears because he had given it to a few of his patients and they snapped back instantly, were perfectly healthy, and he literally had to watch people die right in front of his face because they were given this thing that was just concocted out of nowhere, and it really was useless. It didn't really do the job. But and he was actually prevented from giving people corticosteroids to help them. And that's how bad this shit is, right? Um, really, really, who knows what the fuck they've got planned for us here in 26, 27. And unfortunately, we're probably going to be like played here, and we're going to be played hard. That's that's the backdrop. Now, how do you frame this? And keep in mind, you know, they did all this sickness and shit while Donnie was on his watch. So would it not make sense that they do another one to try and derail his plans while on his watch? Makes perfect sense to me. Um, how do you prepare? Well, oh boy. I think probably the easiest thing that you can possibly do is just don't be in love with any one thing. Don't have all your capital all wrapped up in one place, one currency, one asset. You know, the one thing that's absolutely killing these locals here in my country is, of course, they went and basically piled their entire net worth into real estate purchases. And what's really scary is not only, and they don't realize this, but this is the way the modern banking system works. And, you know, sadly, Canadians themselves make absolutely horrible investors. Um, not only did they pile all their net worth into like their home or maybe buy another home or a second home or whatever, but these houses are owned on leverage, right? Because technically that's what a mortgage is. It's just basically like buying like a call option. Yeah, no, it's not really the same. Um, it's like buying stock on margin. It's the same thing, right? So if the underlying value of the house goes down, the bank doesn't give a shit. If you happen to lose your job, well, the bank doesn't give a shit. They'll just take your asset from you. It's just business as usual. It's the way it goes. Um, I don't think that that's what the banksters want, but they won't shed a tear if you lose your home. So I think the number one thing that I would suggest as a financial planner to anybody right now is just get your books in order. Don't be carrying a ton of debt. In fact, I did a study on July 4th because, it was a pretty quiet day in the market. And I broke apart the Canadian bond market, which to all intents and purposes is basically the same thing as the US bond market. And I would imagine probably if we look at European bonds, they probably look very similar. Um, People who are carrying a lot of debt and who are leveraged to this debt situation, they're going to get absolutely crushed. But and actually this will be a really interesting sort of, let's do a litmus test of how many people here, and I know all of you know this answer, all you regulars, but what's Brian's basic philosophy in life? Neither a whatter nor a whatter be. Anybody? Does anybody know the answer to that? Excellent. Glass Insights, if that is your real name, Bart Simpson. Good to see that you're still with me. Excellent, Alex. Right. One person over there is with me on YouTube. So I think probably the best thing that you can possibly prepare for, and I think that this is a really, really good question, is just make sure that you have maybe a year or two of wages, and or make sure that you have an employer that really likes you and that you have a pretty good job. It's nice and secure. And so if you go there in the morning, the irony of it all is, do you think that McDonald's is going to close its doors if we go into a recession? No, they'll still keep doing business. Do you think that your local hardware store is going to close? No, they'll still be in business. So I mean, this is a good opportunity if either A, you have enough assets that you can just sit on your assets and just live off of them. And yeah, the inflation is probably going to make life a pain in the ass. And you're going to go to the grocery store. And one week you saw the loaf of bread was $5. And then the next week, the fucking loaf of bread is like $6, then $7, then $8. And yeah, life's going to suck horse cocks as we go through that inflationary spiral. Um, if you've got an employer that you work well with and that you like, and they like you, shouldn't make any difference. People are still going to get up in the morning. If you have a government job, the irony of it all is you're probably still going to have that job. I doubt they're going to do a hell of a lot. It's not like I mean, it's ironic, in this crazy ass world, you got to be a bit careful about what kind of job or vocation you have. I think something like being a postal carrier could be problematic going forward. I can clearly see that they're trying to put the post office out of business because it's incredibly inefficient, sort of like 20th century, 19th century institution that with modern day email and all that kind of stuff, it kind of makes it obsolete. So be careful about being trapped into jobs that might, if anything, and I did hear this from a couple of the guys that I suggest that you watch these videos. They've even said, I think this guy even particularly said, I think maybe it was Paul Turner Jones. I don't think I put his video out. It's another really great video I watched. Saturday is sort of my education day. So I have to sit and watch as many of these guys talk and sort of get an idea of where the hell they're thinking the world's going. Watched a really cool interview with Paul Tudor Jones. I'll try and put that out on the feed. And by the way, probably the best way to follow me is just simply follow this silly X account. But as I said, I am setting up a new social media account on a completely different platform. And I'll be transitioning over there, but I don't really want to give that out. If you want it, it's just for my private friends right now. PM me, I'll be happy to add you. But probably the easiest way to follow me and watch these videos and stuff that I talk about and stuff is to just simply follow me on this X. And I am a CR investor, the Canadian Rational Investor. That's what CR Investor stood for. And I used to have a website a million years ago, the CanadianRationalInvestor.com. And I might actually even get that back up and running in the future, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. What I would just simply say here is if you are not leveraged to the system, then I think you'll do fine. If you have a job, ironically enough, if you have guaranteed government benefits, it's not like they can actually cut those benefits for you. And remember, governments move slow as ice, or icebergs or whatever. So they might actually get into a really bad fiscal situation. But what they actually say is anybody who's retiring next year or anybody who makes a disability claim next year, well, you're going to have a deduction, whatever. So I don't really think there's a real worry about that. Well, if anything, and this is where I wanted to show you, I don't have it over here though. I'm on this TRI channel right now. But I watched a really, really good interview with Paul Tudor Jones yesterday. And he's actually saying that AI is the most disruptive technology in like it's even more disruptive than the advent of the internet, the advent of the steam engine, the advent of electricity. It's remarkable how excited he is about AI. But the sad part about this is if you're worried about jobs and if you work for like a government agency, if you work, I think Microsoft just laid off 10,000 employees, and they're all, of course, being replaced by AI. And usually in the tech space, it happens first, and then it will trickle down into things like government and stuff like that. That's actually, and I think it's going to be massively deflationary for our society. And ironically enough, that will probably offset the hyperinflation that they're going to inject to keep this baby boomer benefits scam, if you will. I don't know what you want to call it, but basically they've all been guaranteed medical and retirement benefits, and the governments can't renege on that. They have to honor those obligations, and so as a result, that is half the reason why we're going through what we're going through with this whole monetizing the debt and great reset and blah 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 blah, because they just got to keep shilling out money to these people. How the hell did I get off on this tangent? Oh yeah, somebody was asking me to prepare. So number one, just don't be in a ton of debt. Don't leave yourself vulnerable. And if anything, hearing my message right now, maybe take the next 6 months, especially since the market should be relatively happy and relatively friendly. Take the next, if we're lucky, 6 months, but probably 3 or 4 months kind of idea, and just clean up your balance sheet. Try and get those damn high interest credit cards paid off. Even if it means going and get like a consolidation loan or something that's not callable. It will be those people that are massively leveraged to the real estate market. They could be in really big, big trouble. And I don't see any reason why they won't. I don't think it's as bad down in the States because they went through their calamity in 07, 08. But places like China here, it is stunning the amount of empty condominiums here. And I don't know what the hell the solution is. What really scares me is I think that this dictator who's basically put himself in power in the capital of this country has decided that he's going to bring in 1 million people a year to fill these empty condos. But they're all empty. And more of these units are coming onto the market. And the people that went and signed a contract to buy this thing, expecting, of course, prices never go down; they only go up. The amount of people that are basically, I don't know what the word is, defaulting. I'm not quite sure. There is another word, but they're basically breaking these contracts, and now the development companies are taking these people to court because they're not. They're just saying, "Fuck it. Here's you keep the deposit. I'm not buying this house now." Um, those are the people that are going to get absolutely screwed here. Now, the irony of it all is that if you do have a bunch of cash and you do have a bunch of capital, yeah, we should go through a deflationary wave to begin with. And frankly speaking, it wouldn't surprise me, since we know that the Bitcoin cycle, we should bottom somewhere near the end of 2026, beginning of 2027. And we also know that Donald Trump plans to, kick JP out of the Federal Reserve. Yeah, his term's over and he's not going to be renominated. The plan is to have some sort of interest rate dove come in and take his spot next June, July. So you can literally see all of the wheels of hyperinflation coming. But I think what ends up happening is through 2026, maybe it's into the latter part of the year, who knows? There's going to be some sort of crisis du jour created. Your guess is as good as mine where the crisis comes from. And I don't think it's in any of our best interest to predict what the crisis will be. It will, and I guarantee you, whatever the crisis is, it will be more outlandish, more crazy, more over the top than any of us could possibly imagine, even right now. If you are asset rich, then yeah, your purchasing power of your assets are probably going to diminish. If you have a bit of gold in your portfolio, not a bad idea. You got a bit of Bitcoin in your portfolio, not a bad idea. You could have various different currencies in your portfolio. Me personally, I've got a mix of Chinese currency that I use to pay the bills here. And of course, I've got a big whack of US cash. And of course, I've got a big whack of Bitcoin. And I've got a whole bunch of gold and various different metal proxies in my registered account. I suppose one way you could prepare yourself is to maybe think about buying inflation protected bonds, which pay you a premium should inflation numbers get out of control. I don't know whether that's going to insulate you if the bond market does have to take a pretty big punch in the nose. But it is a way to diversify. Probably, yeah. So I think, and then of course, my hunch here is that if we do happen to go through a hyperinflationary wave following whatever the crisis is, being long things like, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook, even Allen and his goofy battery company. My hunch is that those will probably move up in value when the central banksters start turning the printing presses on in earnest. But I don't think that trade happens until we actually go through whatever the crisis is. So I don't know what the crisis is. You should see a massive deflationary wave through the crisis. And then as soon as you hear that the Fed is acquiesced and that they're taking interest rates and they'll do whatever they have to do, Draghi back in the 90s, same thing. JP, of course, through the sickness, I will sacrifice my life to save capitalism. That kind of crazy talk. As soon as you hear the central banksters just take rates as low as they can, and maybe they drop like the US drops interest rates by like a full percent, maybe even a couple percent, just like overnight, then all right, it's now time to get back into this speculative game. And I do find it fascinating that this is all going to correspond nicely around the Bitcoin cycle. We should, I suppose I ought to talk about newsletters and all that kind of stuff. Mind you, I don't think I have it in here. Let's pop on over. And then, of course, did I save it on my laptop? Did I save it on that? Anyway, this is the long-term cycle picture that I like to use. And these fib time studies are absolutely invaluable. So you can see, I mean, my full expectations is we go face rippy here. I don't know whether we can actually, this is a log scale chart. I don't know whether we can do this kind of log scale growth. This might be a little bit aggressive. What I did find interesting is that if I actually draw a trend line from peak to peak to peak off of this, interesting level pops out. So there we are there on the log scale, boom to boom to boom. Maybe we can hit that. I don't know. Tough to say, but it is log scale. I definitely think the market is pointing up. Don't fight this right now. And especially with all the legislation and stuff being passed, we are basically right in the middle of our crypto summer. Ironically enough, actually, this is when we should be all partying and banging out doubles and banging out 10Xs and look at all the stinking money that I'm making in crypto. So the simple fact that we're not doing that, I think that is actually a really big tell of market state right now. I've said this repeatedly to you folks. I don't think the message is getting across, but maybe, years down the road when I write my book, I will reiterate this. We'll look back on this. This, if anything, the fact that we're not face ripping here is in itself actually a tell of how difficult this market state is. And they always say, if markets can't rally when they're supposed to rally, then what are they going to do when they're supposed to go down? And this is what really scares me about this is I don't hear anybody realistically talking about the cost of production of one Bitcoin. And it's so bizarre how wide varied the responses are. We did have one gentleman on the site years ago who actually did a very good cost of production analysis. And what was fascinating was each of these troughs, basically, this was around the base cost of production each cycle we went through here. So, if the cost of production was somewhere around 20 grand that last cycle, then by definition, having events, cost of production should probably be around 40 grand right now. Seems logical to me. I'd also say too that, and I did this on Friday, but I suppose we can do it here as well, that quite often with these things, you'll notice from the absolute top down to the bottom is about an 80% correction. And if we look back at the previous cycle, the top down to the bottom was about an 80% correction. So, and do it again over here. The top to the bottom. In this case, we had Mike Kern rage quit. I hate you all. Fuck you. And he sold everything. Oh, that wasn't very smart. But anyway, and then there was also the Gox guys. They were liquidating all their coins they stole on BTCE. Remember them out of Slovenia? Oh, there's a nice, safe regulatory environment. Anyway, point of the matter, 80% correction. So why should we expect anything different? And what's fascinating, and this is why I still think we can hit this 200,000. If we get up into, say, I don't know, let's say 269,000, that's where we top. Well, an 80% correction takes us down. Where's 80%? There it is, somewhere in there. Yeah, about 50,000. So I think it actually makes perfect sense. We have a big blow off top, and then we come slamming down the other side. And all we do is we just bump into this massive horizontal support and resistance level, probably play with these highs a little bit, and probably into that tail is probably your ultimate low next cycle. Yeah, something like that. Who knows? So I see more and more anecdotal evidence that, we are coming to the end of this cycle. And if anything, all this legislation down in the States, that is your absolute hallmark that crypto is now officially matured. It is now a mature asset, and Wall Street has officially taken over this story. I think I've told all of you that the price of one house, and actually specifically where I'm shopping in China right now, is the house that I'm looking for, the type of house, is about $500,000. This is well outside major cities. And it's just literally, maybe like 1,500, 2,000 square feet, not a huge house. But everything that I need when I did my shopping for Liam and how I'd like to build this out as an income producing property so he doesn't ever have to worry about the house being taken away from him. It looks like the bill's right around $500,000. So by definition, since China, of course, has horrific taxes, capital gains in my country, the way you do it is it's just 50% of 50%. So if I want the end result to be $500,000, just pure cash, then, if I sell $1 million asset, then 50% of that is 500,000, subject to 50% tax, 250,000. Then I would get 750,000 after taxes. So my selling, the total net worth of my Bitcoins needs to be somewhere in the neighborhood between, let's call it $750,000 and $1 million to buy Liam that house. And my Bitcoin holdings right now at about 100 and some odd thousand are sitting at about 300,000 US. So if this thing doubles from here, then Liam gets his house. Woohoo! I don't know what the fuck's going to happen. I mean, the irony of it all is I'm sitting on a mountain of cash, so I don't really care one way or the other. I'm trying to get rid of all my Chinese dollars because I think they're worthless and they are going to get more worthless over the next 10 years. So I haven't really got a concern with regard to paying the bills. So ironically enough, for a guy like me, I'm just sitting treading water right now. Don't really need to make money. Just don't go and do something stupid. Like, these stupid YouTube channels and all this. I don't know whether you've ever seen these. You come into these notification things. I got rid of all of them, but you come in here and there's like 500, the stupid bots and stuff have taken over this channel. And they're all like, I'm 100% in some screwy fucking cryptocurrency that all it has is like letters and numbers in the name. I mean, what the fuck is that? Talk about being totally scot-free if the thing goes belly up. I mean, you don't even know what the fuck the name of the damn thing is. So you get that's where people get destroyed, folks, is they go all in on some stupid fucking hype. And of course, it goes off the board. And then they ask themselves after the fact, well, why did things go bad? I actually make the argument. I've got 2 rules of investing. If you don't know them, write them down. This is your free piece of today's broadcast for any looky-loos. Number 1, try and have some sort of algorithmic approach to how you make your investment decisions. That's like if, and 3 reasons. Do this, else don't do anything. I mean, why are computers so good at algorithmic trading? Why are computers like, high frequency traders? Well, they have very simple rules. And if certain conditions are met, they act. And if those conditions are not met, they don't act. And well, exactly, Kevin, they have a plan. And the irony of it all is that by definition, if they actually break their plan, then it means that the algorithm's broken, that the computer's actually broken. And it'll probably do something like HAL in 2001 Space Odyssey and kill us all. And I did find it interesting. Paul Tudor Jones reiterated the fact that Alan here has told us that we literally have about a 1 in 5 chance, everybody, that AI is actually going to murder us all of us humans. A 1 in 5 chance that AI will pretty much exterminate the human race. A 1 in 5 chance. That is pretty fucking big. I mean, hell, if somebody told me there was a 1 in 5 chance of a stock collapsing and going off the board, I'd buy a put option just to see what the fuck happens. You got like a 20% chance that the stock goes to zero and you hit a home run. That's scary. 20% chance that we're all toast. So, that's where AI sits there and turns into an Alan, or Hal, I guess Alan. And actually half the time I think Alan is a robot, to be perfectly honest with you, the way that he acts. I don't know many humans who act like him, but anyway, that's another conversation for another day. So that's rule number 1. Remove the investment process from, ooh, I heard a hot tip. This guy says buy this and you'll get rich. And try and come up with some sort of systematic approach. I only invest my money when I see these criteria. You want them to be fundamental? Fine. I know lots of fundamental analysts that do very, very well. But unfortunately, if you did a fundamental case study of even something like Bitcoin, $108,000, I do not think you can fundamentally make an argument that Bitcoin is a good investment at $108,000. Sorry. I also don't think that buying an ounce of gold at $4,000 an ounce is a fundamentally sound idea. And of course, I was a commodities broker, trader, prop trader forever. So you can listen to me and go, fuck you, Brian, you don't know what you're talking about. But if it's one thing I understand about value, is if you're talking commodities, value is the cost of actually producing whatever these damn things are. And there's no gold company in the world that will tell you right now that their average cost of producing 1 ounce of gold is like $3,500. No fucking way. And if it was, they would go out of business. So Mr. And also too, one thing I absolutely love about our audience is we always have a few sort of smart asses who absolutely love to poke fun at me on a regular basis. So Mr. Big House, there you go. Right on cue. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. So as I had said earlier, this is the definition. When you look at an image like this is the definition of a momentum market, where an asset that was just a year or so ago is trading at $16,000. And here we are, like 5x that price. When an asset gets this kind of momentum behind it, and probably if you're an Elliott waiver, you can see this. Usually these things move in waves. And as this ABCD outlines, as I said, I'm not totally positive that the logarithmic approach is the best approach here. I don't know. I'm still kind of on the fence about that. If we look at just the regular scale chart, that would be this one. Well, ABCD, we're talking somewhere between 135 up to 160. And it is interesting that off of this range, classic commodity trader, this is an extension study. We used to do lots of fun in years gone by, even with the cryptos, using the parking garage analogy in the department store. And I think I even have this still on here. We used to always make fun that if you ever see a market move 4 ranges higher, then that's the end of the run. And I think on these studies, maybe not this one, but I even had like Amanda's penthouse on these. If you followed me for as long as you have, then you all remember Amanda and Amanda's penthouse. But I think I still have this on here. Extensions. There we are. Oh, Amanda's dungeon. So obviously we were talking about bear slides at some point in the past. But I could see on a linear scale, we reach all the way up top here. Having said that, that's not, I wouldn't plan for that. When I see this chart, this linear chart, I really like Alt ABCDs up into 160. I really like this 4669 chaos theory study extension. 877 off of this range, chaos extension, and the top of the parking garage, which is nothing more than an extension study of this range that we broke out of about a year ago. So my conservative window, and this is what I kind of think is, let's call it 160, 165, maybe if we're lucky. Remember, I drew earlier some trend lines, and I did find one on this linear scale that caught my attention. If we go there to, actually, this is the peak there. You can see that's another sort of stab up into that parking garage. I think I already have that on there. But anyway, that's up into this window up in here. I kind of like that thinking. It's not outlandish. And if anything, I think this makes sense why we see such a massive stiff brick wall up here. If we can punch through that top, then I think, the inertia of this market, I think we will punch up through that top, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do something like up into there, then top out, then we have to come back down, then we play at that level, then come back down, do something like that. And actually, this reminds me a lot of the actual market that I think that we're in, this market state, in that I remember I went and toured around Europe through this cycle. And I remember we ran up, and the irony of it all is this is Donnie. So I could very easily see, and this was the CME initial listing of Bitcoins. I could very easily see them do something like this, and notice this insane move. So this is why I'm still holding out for that logarithmic move. I don't know, call me crazy. But notice how every single push, we get like a little bit steeper, a little bit steeper, a little bit steeper. And then, oh my God, insanely steep. And notice this is a weekly price chart. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. In 5 weeks, the price of Bitcoin. So if we think that the market's going to top out sometime in the middle of October, then that means that sort of like the beginning of September, the end of August, this goddamn thing could just go absolutely insane here. And this would be exactly like what happened the last time Donnie was president. So why wouldn't it be the same? Seems perfectly logical to me. So just understand, this is the way that parabolic moves often end, where like literally this 5 weeks is, what is this? This is like more than like 3 or 4 times the range that the damn thing put in just in the previous like couple years, right? That's $15,000. And what is this number? Is that even, that's 5,000. So, whoops, that's not what I wanted. This one, right? I hope you can see what's happened here. I mean, you could make the argument from the bottom, right? That's 5,000 from the very bottom of that cycle all the way into about a month or so before the end of the cycle. And then in 1 month, the damn thing triples that entire price action. So this is why I think that we could go absolutely insane here, and Liam might just get his house. I don't see any reason why this can't happen. And then, the fundamental story, the backdrop, they've basically laid the stage for an absolute orgy in this crypto space. The only problem is, are you coming in and actually buying value through that move? And of course, that's where Big House, that's where he'll buy. And a week or two later, he's going to be like, see, I told you, I just doubled my money because I went and bought at 120 when Brian said, be careful, we're coming into the top of the market. So don't be shocked if we see something like this. But the point that I wanted to make is the other side of this event, I think actually is going to look a lot like this, where we're going to have this absolute insane end to this move where, I mean, get ready. The volatility, it's going to be absolutely staggering. And for certain, everybody and their brother is going to be telling you, you must be in Bitcoin here. You are a fool if you are not buying. That Beamish guy is a total idiot for even selling halves on doubles. This time it's different. That's what's coming. It is. It's ridiculous how cliche this stuff is. So it's coming. And then what I found interesting was this was almost like a dream. This market stayed here. And I remember I went and I toured Europe through the summer. And I remember we came slamming all the way down into this low here, which is about $6,000. Yeah, 5,900. And then we just sat here and we went sideways for about, I'm going to say, what is that? February all the way to November. So, I mean, kind of like actually what we just went through now, eh? I think this happens next year, though, not this year. And what I noticed was when I went to Europe, man, the fervor about Bitcoin and all that, and it's going to be revolutionary, and oh my God, you got to get in on it. And I remember in Switzerland, we went to this luncheon, and all these people were all like, Bitcoin, blockchain. And I'm like, well, do you trade Bitcoin? No. How long have you been in this space? Oh, I just came to the conference this week. It's so hot. Everybody's so excited about Bitcoin. And what's scary is that they all sort of lulled them into believing that this was the end of the correction. And it can only go up from here. Because look at that correction. Oh my God, that's crazy. And this is the tricky part about capitalism, is that people who did come in here and thought that they were buying the bottom of the market here at about 6 G's or so, they actually got handed a 50% haircut on their investments on this dump right here, which actually marked the bottom of the market. And I have a feeling that's exactly what's going to happen here. So if we do the same sort of analogy and think about our crazy ass crypto cycle, I mean, I still think that we're in, believe it or not, call me crazy. Many people do. This part of the market here, we actually haven't really moved a hell of a lot. I mean, like this low here, 75, this high is 100. Well, it's 25, 30% move. That's not bad. But it's certainly nothing like the blow off top ends to these moves. And I personally think that our cycle looks a lot like this. And I think you could probably make the argument like this movement here. Get rid of this. But this movement here is kind of like, what is this? Is this 25%? No, wow, look at that. That's a 67% move there. So if you were like, oh my God, Bitcoin's crashing, it's the end of the world. And I still think actually this is what happens at the end of the summer. And this is what happens into the fall. And is there more corroborating evidence? I actually think that a bond market collapse is not too far away. We look at the bond market, and good old Hugh Hendry here has been uber bullish of the bonds for a while. And I think on balance, if this thing could actually W out on the other side of this trend line, I'd think it. But you can see what happened with Donnie's passage of the bill. We still don't have a real clean W on the other side of that trend line. And you can see on just even the first blush of that bill, the market like literally gaps lower and now is puking out, gapping lower again here. Let's see what happens to this bond market. If we're really lucky, this thing holds the lows. But I think I showed you, like in China, the bond market is already breaking. This is why I think that the international crisis is not going to come from the United States. I think it's going to come from countries like China. This, I think, is the 64,000-pound elephant in the room that nobody's paying attention to. So you can already start to see China is actually emmed out. It's already broken through this little uptrend line, and it's actually starting to em out. And of course, the stupid government guy is going and borrowing just absolutely insane amounts of money right now. You can't even contemplate the amount of money this guy is going and borrowing. And there is no government right now. He's just said, I'm going to go and borrow, I think it's like $200 billion on your behalf. And there's not a fucking thing you can do about it, you suckers. And I think he even used the word suckers. No, he didn't. Anyway, it's tragic what these fuckers are doing to us. And there's nothing we can do about it, which is so tragic. In fact, as a great analogy of this, I show you guys the money supply image. And lo and behold, all these central banksters and central planners, knowing full well that they're going to absolutely dilute the shit out of the currency, a great reset, all that crap. They've actually literally said, and let's see if I can find it, USM2. Or maybe I just have it under M2. Yeah, this is the one that I have. They literally have said, oh, sorry, you've all clued in to actually what inflation really is. Because keep in mind, inflation is nothing more than an artificial concept. There is no such thing as inflation in Mother Nature. It doesn't exist. So what is inflation? Well, inflation is the central planners, whoever's act the controls, are literally printing money. So businesses and society in general sees the dilution of the purchasing power of the currency. And so as a result, you see prices around your society going up to do nothing more than just offset the hyperinflating of the money supply. And so as a result, China here has just been an absolutely horrific inflation situation for quite some time. The United States actually got a bit of religion, and you did see the inflation numbers start to come down after guys like Stanley Druckenmiller just got so pissed off at the central bankster crooks that he was like, stop it, you are going to destroy my country, you cocksuckers. And at that moment, hearing guys like him say, what the fuck are you doing, you idiots? They got religion. But, oh, look how mysteriously that conversation's disappeared. And, oh, what a coincidence. Now you can't even get the data. They've literally stopped producing the data because they know full well that the public is in on what inflation actually is. So our solution is, well, let's just not let them see the data anymore. Assholes. I swear, these humans, I wish I never make any wishes in life. Never. One piece of advice for all of you from one human to another, never, ever, ever make a wish. Never. Because you're probably likely to get that wish fulfilled, and you're going to get it good and hard. So I never, ever wish for anything. So you saw I was just about to say, oh, I wish, and then whoa. I never wish for anything. Never. Don't do it. It's the universe's trap. Anyway, back to our conversation. I think, and ironically enough, I actually think the Americans are in a better situation than the rest of the world. As I said, my communist country, oh my goodness, this situation here is just over the top. You can't even script this any better what they're doing to us. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. So back to our story about Bitcoin. I don't see any reason. And keep in mind, Donnie is a crypto bull. I think Donnie would be perfectly happy if the United States of America and its borrowing power were diminished. I don't think he gives a rat's ass. I don't even think he gives a rat's ass about the United States of America as an institution. And especially with what you saw through the Biden years, I think if anything, he's probably absolutely disgusted at what the United States of America has actually turned into. Whether that leads to the actual demise of the United States of America, I don't know. It's anybody's guess. I will say, though, that we are in a very, very difficult 4 or 5 year window here. And I have no idea what this universe is actually going to look like on the other side of this window. We might find that half of the countries that exist in the world now by 2032, and when we get out of this nightmare scenario, Mr. Benner has basically told us that really we don't have any choice. We got to go through it. Where was that? Over here. I don't know what the hell this world's going to look like, but I have a funny feeling it's going to look a hell of a lot different than what you see here right now. So anyway, just got to ride with the punches. But neither a debtor nor a lender be. Getting back to what somebody asked me, just don't put yourself into a position where you can be margin called. Just don't do it. Yeah, if the purchasing power of whatever money you have is diminished, well, I mean, there's not much we can do about these bankster crooks. You know how they're running our society. We just got to roll with the punches and just be damn diversified. Own a little bit of everything. Anyway, that's about the best advice I can give anybody in this kind of environment. Anyway, back to our story. The fun part, right? Because we're only halfway through 2025. Let's not all get too depressed here. We actually have this coming in front of us. So are you ready? And then, of course, let's say you did buy some here. What do you have to do when the market starts doing this? And of course, as a technician, you'll at least appreciate what the hell's going on here. This is the definition of the market going parabolic. So what do you have to do in this environment? Let's see whether anybody on the YouTube page can answer me. What must you do when the market starts going stupid like this? And of course, all the public comes in and they buy this. What do you have to do as a professional in this marketplace? And if you don't know this answer, put your goddamn money away. You're going to have it taken away from you. Very good, Constantine. Very good, the Matador. Oh, man. I was just getting started. Anyway, so, if anything, that image right there, we might even still be in this phase, right? Remember we had said that we recently had a 20% correction. I don't know whether that's 20% or not. What is that? That's actually, yeah, you know what? See, look at that. That's like 30-40%. And that is, this will be interesting. That's right there. And then the peak is right there. So that's 22 bars. So that's 22 bars after the 30%, 40% correction. So where are we now? Do, 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 do. Hey, squiggly line theory for the win. So this is 16 bar. Oh, you know what? Look at this. This is actually pretty interesting. So thinking that that's our cycle peak. So where's 22 bars? 22 bars is right there. Interesting. So that's there. So this correction here was 28 bars. Well, it's pretty close. Let's see. That last correction was like 40%. And what's this? This is 33%. Pretty close. So, try and put this kind of price action into context and understand that into the end of these bull markets, the market often goes parabolic. I wouldn't be in a big hurry to call the top. I don't know where. I mean, this is the conservative window. And, Brian's going to default to conservative, but I'm not going to put myself into a position where if this scenario plays out, I'm not prepared. My plan for, you all know, is I've got like better part of 3 Bitcoins and I need to take out, probably about $1 million out of this market. So then that would imply 1 million Canadian. So Chinese dollars, there's about a 50% premium to Bitcoin price. So 50% would be something like 700,000 on say 2.5 Bitcoins. That's roughly the number. That would imply like what, 300,000, 250,000, somewhere up in that neighborhood for my Bitcoins. So my plan is that if we do actually breach 250,000, then I will put myself on a dollar cost average selling plan and just slowly exit my way out of this market, hopefully well above 250,000. Maybe I start at 250, let another one go off at 270, maybe let another one go off at 300, maybe let another go off at 270, another to go off at 260, another at 280, another at 230, whatever, but just slowly dollar cost average my way out of the market this fall. That's my plan. And if Bitcoin can't get above 250,000, I'm not in a big hurry. And the irony of it all is that Liam's in a relatively safe place. His basic needs are being met. Of course, I'm the watchdog to make damn sure that his needs are met. And I do often have to keep these people in line. But, if we have to live another 4 years of that until the next cycle to take Bitcoin up to the price of buying one house in China, if that's what it has to be, that's what it has to be. I'm not really stressed one way or the other, but my plan is if we do breach that 250 US, I will start exiting the market. So at least I'm an open book. That's the one thing you can absolutely take away from me. I guess one way for us to see the start of the stupidity, what do we always say? What always rises last. And this, of course, is your opportunity to swear on YouTube without you actually saying, look, he told me to say it. He told me to say it. Or you can just say SH blank T if you want. I don't care. But my hunch is that, and keep in mind, this is all about this kind of market state. So my hunch is when you start hearing the public talking about these silly names, and of course, who, when his name starts rallying, then we'll know that we're finally into the sort of the summer silly season of 2025. Get ready. We're all going to get fucking stinking rich here, but you got to play it cool. And keep in mind, over the past, I guess, maybe 6-8 months, I've been slowly taking all of the cash that I have in the Kraken account and just slowly working my way into the market. Right now, I have about, I'm going to say 95% of my capital invested. Yes, I did buy some names that site members have made fun of me recently of. We'll see what happens. Only time will tell. I don't take big bets on any names. You can see how well spread out all my capital is within this space. But everything that is a blue dot here is something that I'm long. This is the same strategy that I used back 10, 15 years ago. Sort of the demonstration model for public, how to participate in this market without taking too much risk. And you can see I'm all loaded up. So there's only one more order I have working for my capital, and it happens to be in this LPT. And I wanted to get filled down here, and the bastards just won't fill me. And they probably saw that I did these videos and I publicly say everything that I'm doing. I've got my bid working at my 78.6, but they just won't bring it back down. Jerks. But anyway, if I miss it, I miss it. Like I said, I'm like 95% invested. So I'm ready. If this thing wants to rally, I'll be more than happy to bang out plenty of doubles down the road. I'd also say too, like I said earlier, I think that your Trump coin here is probably the best proxy for the public to watch, because I personally think that this crypto cycle, just like last cycle, it was all SBF and Do Kwon, and at least it was like, our peers within the space. This cycle is all dominated by this idiot. And unfortunately, if you understand um, uh, Trump University, you understand what I think about Mr. Trump, and not only his ethics, his morals, but also his business acumen. Frankly speaking, I think Donald Trump's a horrible businessman. I remember back in the early 90s, everybody was laughing at him about how he was basically bankrupt. And he had to go over to Europe and get Deutsche Bank to refinance half of his real estate. His Las Vegas casino was an absolute shit show of a story. So I'm not quite sure why the public loves him so much, but anyway, they do what they do. But I would just simply say that this entire space is being dominated by Donnie and all of his cronies. So it would just make logical sense that since it is a Donnie market, that this market won't be left behind without Donnie participating. And anybody that's a student of mine, you do understand that they basically brought this thing back down to trade location. If we look at things like indicators, we can see that the indicators are bottoming out. They got oversold, starting to put in divergence. Really, it's just a question now of when does a half decent W actually form to kick this next bull off. And that's what I think is going on here. It's just a waiting game. And the irony of it all is that if we go back to the Bitcoin chart, I've been saying all along that I don't think that this crazy, stupid season starts until about the middle of August, right? Last year's correction window, remember fucking Gucci sweater wearers, right? And then by the end of the correction window, they were long gone. I don't see any reason why this can't go on the same duration, which means that we muddle. And then once we hit this level, oh boy, get ready. All hell's about to break loose. And it is interesting that we actually have solar eclipses coming up here. And I think through the solar eclipse window, kind of like how this eclipse window was a trough, I think this eclipse window actually is your peak. And then there'll be some sort of blow off top follow event, which creates a divergence, which actually paints the cycle top. So anyway, hopefully that gives you a pretty good idea of what I'm looking for the second half of this year. Should be quite a wild ride. But once we're on the other side of this, all bets are off. All right, let's go look at that Q&A document and see if there's any questions I can answer. Might be a reiteration of stuff that I've already said here today. And if it is, then I'll just say, just hit the rewind button. Where is Chris? Chris is around here somewhere. There he is. And where is the AMA? Bush. Juice. And give me some feedback here, people. Did you get any value out of all that? I mean, geez, I was barking for about an hour and a half. Was there anything there that actually, actually, I'm glad I listened to you here today, Brian. There was one or two things that you said were some value. It would just help me understand whether this is of any point what I'm doing here. 100%. Okay, that's good. Stick to your plan. That's right, Jim and Liz. And if that's Liz, of course, you, Chris, and I have the same birthday, and it's absolutely remarkable how similar our behavior and our personalities are. It's absolutely incredible. So I would expect if that is you, Liz, that you should do very well here. And if anything, the sad part about it is when you know who is telling you that he's in there buying Doge, you'll know time to get the fuck out, eh? I hope he's doing okay. Poor guy. And I sure hope some of all my rants are rubbing off on him. But anyway, Constantine says, great insights as usual, Brian. All right, cool. So 2 people out of 50 people watching, 2 people are like, yeah, I heard you say something of value. 48 of you are sitting there going, fuck, this guy's such a windbag. Thanks, Brian, also for your answer to my difficult question. Well, that's good. All right. All right, let's answer these questions. Hi, Brian. Mark Moss just sent out a newsletter saying altcoins will not bounce back. He says, I have no idea who Mark Moss is. He says, this isn't a temporary dip. This is permanent. The retail game in 2017 and 2021 is over. He says claims of large institutional investors coming into this space are incorrect because they have so much money to deploy that there's not enough liquidity for them to buy altcoins. Instead, they are just buying Bitcoin. What do you think of his thesis? Are we fools for holding altcoins, hoping for an altcoin season that will never come? Well, I guess the number one thing I would say is everybody's entitled to their opinion. This is the one reason why I think we in the West are flourishing, and why, CCP China and Russia and all those kind of places are shitholes. And yes, you heard exactly what I just said there, Vladdy and Winnie. And ironically enough, I guess we don't have to worry about Winnie anymore, eh? What a joke. Anyway, and actually it's interesting. There was one guy that used to be always on the site and always touting how wonderful CCP is and how wonderful Winnie is. And I don't see him on the site at all anymore. He was probably called back to China. CCP spies. Anyway, everybody's entitled to their opinion. I definitely think that is 100% true. Our altcoins, and really we have to be careful about what we label here. I think there's a huge difference between an altcoin like Sjord's Rune and an altcoin like Donnie's piece of shit. So you're kind of talking apples and oranges here. Let's call a spade a spade. What letter of the alphabet do you see? Actually, that's not. Oh, I thought I had it on here. Maybe I had it over here. Did I have it on here? Yeah, I thought I did. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Just give me a second. I mean, what? You don't see it there. That's for sure. Matador gonna laugh at me. Hey, you can laugh at me all the want, Matador, if you're gonna buy me steak dinners in Des Moines. I'll be more than happy to be your laughing stock. I don't know, what letter of the alphabet do you see here? Yeah, very actually interesting. There's Matador himself. I love this dude. This dude's a fucking boss. Holy shit, man. And I can understand why you and Colin would get together and see the world the same way. If you do talk to Colin, send him my best wishes. I really do think the world of him. Just stop talking about guaranteed investments in crypto. God, please get him off of that. That's just a potion for disaster. But anyway, I mean, what letter of the alphabet do you see here? And really, I would argue that I would rather listen to Mr. Market than I would rather listen to any individual market commentator, and especially anybody who's quote unquote predicting the future. This is a huge prediction that this person is making. And what's scary about this is, I mean, he could literally ruin his career if this market actually does rally. Hey, LTO is now delisting. Woohoo! I think this is a dangerous blanket statement that's being made right into the absolute worst possible mark. part of this cycle. And ironically enough, if the Fed even just the slightest bit acquiesces and starts saying things like, well, maybe it is time we start cutting rates. And keep in mind, they theoretically in their quote unquote dot plot, they're actually expecting to cut rates twice this fall. In that kind of environment, you might find that the venture cap market goes absolutely crazy. And what I might argue is this is actually much further beyond just talking altcoins. And the guy's a Bitcoin maxi. Okay. So now maybe a little bit of his own personal bias is spilling into this statement. This is a very, very bold statement to make. Brian would be sort of like, well, spread the risk. Don't take too much risk. Try and trade setups. If you're going to be a little old lady, just force yourself to come in and buy against the bottom ends of ranges. If you want to time your purchases, 3 unrelated reasons to justify taking a risk. I'm starting to see all of that kind of stuff. Oh, thank you, Jim and Liz. Appreciate it. Thank you for the best wishes. And then I would just simply say, look at the cycles are pointing towards some sort of peak this fall. And what's interesting, and this is what I wanted to mention earlier, was that this isn't just about crypto. Actually, this is a much, much broader story. So if you go and look at things like the Russell 2000, and keep in mind the Russell 2000 is going to behave a lot like altcoins. That is the venture cap part of the stock market. There's my Missouri buddies. He's a really good haircutter. Actually, I got to go get another haircut. My hair's getting too long again. Do I go back down to Missouri to get a haircut? That would be hilarious. If I just turned up at his store. Well, I'm here for my haircut. All the way from Vancouver. But, this is the Russell 2000. And that's painted that story. I literally posted this the day that it broke out here. And not a single fucking person on the interneting was talking about how the Russell 2000s were going to go crazy. Has anybody seen what the Russell 2000 has done recently? Brian, when his voice starts going higher, oh boy, all hell's gonna break loose. when the octave of Brian's voice goes up, oh boy, look out. So I don't know whether I have the Russell 2000 on here or not, but it's just a commentary that I don't think that this really has anything to do with quote unquote altcoins. This is the part of the cycle where the venture cap part of the market performs. And sadly, of course, this is exactly the part of the cycle where the public comes in. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. So I don't subscribe to that newsletter. That's about the easiest way that I can describe it. Whether I have the Russell 2000 on here. Yeah, here it is. I mean, look at what this damn thing's done. That call was made right there. We went up a little bit. Oh, head fake. And then big outside upside reversal. And look at what this damn market's done. Chung, 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 chung. Up it goes. And the worst part about this, of course, is where everybody's bearish. And when will the public actually start talking bullishly? Well, they'll start getting bullish here at the top of the market. And they'll come in and say, you must absolutely be long this space here. And sadly, I think that is the end of the move. And I think that that's going to happen into this fall window right up in here. So I think this has less to do with crypto itself and more to do with sort of economic cycles. Where are we in these cycles? How does the public typically behave through these parts of the cycles? How are they feeling? And of course, is there anybody encouraging this story? And then to finish this off, I mean, let me ask you a very point blank question. Do you think, keep in mind, Donnie has got a shit ton exposure in this space. Do you really think that Donnie is going to let his Trump coin flounder like this through this cycle? The longer you play this game, what you come to realize is that institutions buy down markets. The public sells down markets. So if Brian fancies him an institutional participant, and I'm trying to teach you all how to behave like institutions in this market, then what should you be thinking here? Should you be thinking bear or should you be thinking bull? I can't predict the future. Nobody can. It's impossible. But what I will tell you is I've played this game long enough. My hunch here is that we are a hell of a lot closer to some sort of bottom than we are the top. Same thing with our buddy fucking Alan there. Or fucking Alan. No thanks. Where's Alan? It's the same logic. And I mean, you see the way that he pumps his coin. Where the hell? I got Alan on here somewhere. Oh, maybe he's down here. Yeah. So you tell me, does that look like institutions are buying or selling? Maybe I should draw the institutional reload zone study on this image, and maybe that will help you. So that's the way that I answer that question. This to me looks like a buying opportunity, not a selling opportunity. How ironic, eh? So that's my answer for you. And of course, I put my money where my mouth is. So if this person is right, well, then my portfolio just sits there and doesn't do anything. Oh, well. All right. Number 2. Hey, Brian, have you heard of closed-end funds that have discounts on them? I've heard some fund managers use to make money, if that makes sense. Thank you, Brian. Veteran. All the best. With Lily. Absolutely. In fact, I invested in a closed-end fund. And I've told all of you, probably you guys on the site, though, aren't really that excited about this. But this is a closed-end fund that I bought years ago at a discount to net asset value. This guy. This is boring mutual fund investing. Boring. This is a closed-end fund. And all down through this window here, this asset, and keep in mind, this was a long time. This asset was trading at a net discount to net asset value, NAV, which is a very popular term in the mutual fund industry. Anyway, something like that. How do you think I've done? I will say I was a little bit sloppy because after I get my first double, I don't have any risk on this. This is a mutual fund for my fucking retirement plan. I'm trading it like a fucking shitcoin. It's the same logic. There's no difference. And the good part about it is down below here, this company, and it'd be just interesting just to even see right now. Every one of these fund companies, what is it? Pine Tree Investment Capital. And I've known these guys forever. I used to own this fund back last cycle. There it is, Pine Tree Capital. They'll even tell you right on the front of their webpage what is the net asset value of the fund. It should just have it like right on the front here. Oh, well, yes, no, well, that's interesting. They don't. They got last price, stock information. So maybe in here, they should just simply tell you the net asset value for the fund on this date is blah. Now I'm going to look like an idiot because they won't post it here. Anyway, it's in here somewhere. Usually they, and quite often, if it's trading at a huge premium to the net asset value, then actually that's dangerous because you don't want to invest in it. So, and half of the reason why they're not showing it is because my hunch is it's trading at a premium. So I tell you what, when I get back from Liam, I'll find the net asset value for this and post it on the site just so you know that I'm not bullshitting you. But in essence, this is a mutual fund. It's a closed-end fund. They have a very specific process. They're value oriented. And of course, when the market did start to come back there and everything started to lift again, the fund went crazy. And I sold half on a double, and I was a little bit lazy. I could have sold another half on a double, but as I said, I've got this as a free position for the rest of my life. I don't plan on retiring officially for another 20 years or so, although the way I live my life right now, I kind of feel like I'm retired anyway. But this is sitting in my registered account, just compounding. It's free stock. And you want to see how high they took this thing last cycle? You think these are high prices? Check this out. This is how stupid mutual fund investors get. So this is the cycle peak into 2011. This is the cycle peak into 2006, 2007, when the oil industry went absolutely crazy. And of course, these guys are heavily invested in Canadian resources. So you tell me, does that fund have any room to come back any further? My hunch is they probably fill in the gaps here the next time these stupid people go in and pile into these mutual funds, not thinking straight. Notice, basically this is sort of where we are right now, and then all hell breaks loose. And this, of course, was through a very, very friendly commodity market cycle. We're not in a friendly commodity market cycle right now. So this thing's still trying to find its base, but I think it just found its base. Would I invest in it now? No, because it's trading at a premium to net asset value. And it's funny how I go on the site and you can't find it. So to answer your question, this is a perfectly good example of a closed-end fund that you can do very, very well on these funds if all you do is you just hunt for when they're trading below net asset value and then start accumulating when you see the weekly W's. It's not rocket science. It's actually really easy. So the way that you actually time the fundamentals of these closed-end funds is just simply wait for them to be trading below net asset value. It's that simple. All right, I think we'll probably leave the broadcast at that for today. I think that's about 2 hours, so I didn't hear the recording kick out. Let's go and put this into, I'll say, sure. Here's a closed-end fund I bought a few years ago below net asset value and then added on the weekly W, and you tell me, how am I doing? Boom. If that isn't sufficient to answer your question, just post a follow-up, and we can always review this tomorrow further. It's all good, but hopefully that gives you a pretty good answer to your question. Absolutely. You can make lots and lots of money in mutual fund land. The issue here, though, is I do think that you use the discount to net asset value as sort of your fundamental. All right, this is attractive. Then if, just like I teach all of you, if you want to time your purchases, just apply everything that I teach you: trade location, indicator confirmation, price structure, big fat W's. Hopefully everybody can see the W. It's as plain as day here. And we also have a W within a W, which makes it even easier to time your purchases, right? So here's the big weekly breakout. Oh my God, you better fucking buy there. That's going to go crazy. Timing your purchases. Look at me. But I think you could also make an argument that there was a nice consolidation right in there, and you could have picked some up off of that breakout. And down in here, we were trading below net asset value. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know whether the person who asked the question is here or not, but I hope that that helps and that gives you a pretty good idea. But yeah, you can make tons of money on closed-end funds. And I suppose the Bitcoin, be interesting to see what the Bitcoin fund is, IBIT. The issue here, though, is that I don't think timing-wise you're really coming in at a good price. Because keep in mind, these commodities, And keep in mind that IBIT technically is a closed-end fund, right? The iShares Bitcoin ETF. I'm not sure whether it's closed-end or open-end. I might have to preface that. But if you go to even these guys, actually, you probably need to go to the actual site. iShares, yeah, this guy's here. They should probably give you the net asset value of one IBIT. So I don't necessarily, with a commodity, if the commodity's price itself is really high, then obviously if the commodity is invested in that asset, then it will just simply mark to market the value of the asset. So this is more like, key facts. This is more like, okay, the fund owns 100 Bitcoins. The fund has X amount of shares out. So X amount of shares divided by current market price gives a value. The current value of those 100 Bitcoins is this number. And what's the difference between the amount of shares that are outstanding and the commodities price? So you can see here net asset value, they're saying 62.37. And that's just basically predicated on what the hell's the value of Bitcoin. So be careful when you're just using net asset value itself. Go take a look at the price chart and ask yourself, are you buying weekly W's? Are you buying at the bottom end of ranges? Those kind of things. So just understand that as well. All right. I think I'm going to leave the broadcast at that. Sure hope you got some value out of all the rants. Slow and steady wins a race. PMA for the win. Try not to take any wooden nickels. They're awfully painful to swallow. Wish me luck on the road with Lily. All the best. And I suppose the only thing left for Brian to say to you good people today is bye for now. And oh, by the way, Bitcoin's working a bullish setup.